I have a few tragic stories, right? These are real life stories that have happened throughout history.
How many are there? 3, 4?
There's 4.
Okay.
I'd rate out of 10 on how disturbing they are, how much they've like affected you, and how and how tragic.
All right,
they are.
let's digest these. So stop every now and again, and I'll give my thoughts as we go along.
Okay. Now, you might know about a few of these. You might have heard about them on the news. Janet Veal eaten by her own cats.
What? Oh, I have heard this.
Did you?
I think she's like an old lady.
She was 56.
Yeah. Oh.
So a body of a woman who was 56 who collapsed and died in her home.
Wasn't it like they waited like 3 days and then the cat started eating her or something like that?
I can't even remember how many days it was. It must say here. Was gnawed and eaten by her own cats on her kitchen floor. Right?
Why am I laughing?
I know. Stop laughing. This is supposed to be a serious episode. Take it seriously. Like this is a real. This is a real person.
I know, but it's the way you said gnawed. Like,
I know. This isn't me saying
like they're
it.
tucking in. Like,
This is a news article. This is Daily Mail saying that she's gnawed. Like, imagine like you're her fucking like daughter or something, and they're saying she was gnawed and eaten by her own cats on the kitchen floor. She was found at her isolated home in Ringwood, Hampshire. Right, there's some information there.
Right.
Neighbours raised the alarm after she had not been seen for some time. Home contained a number of dead animals, but others had survived. Parts of Mrs. Veal's body had been eaten away by her own animals. Inside, they found a distressing scene. There were a number of dead animals, including a cat and a dog, in the kitchen and living room, but others had survived. It is believed the hungry animals had begun to eat their owner after being left without food for months. This is the thing about cats, right? You think they're all cute and lovely, but like, they will turn on you. If you die, they will start to fucking feed on you.
They get hungry.
Yeah, recording a death from natural causes, coroner Keith Wiseman said these animals had been, the officer thought, confined in these 2 rooms downstairs for what may well have been a period of many weeks, stretching quite possibly into several months.
Oh my god!
And
wait, she was dead for several months before they found her.
Yeah, and so that's why obviously the cat started eating her.
4 days or something.
Yeah, that's why they started eating her, because I assume in the first few days the cats are just sort of walking around her thinking what the fuck, and then like sniffing her a little bit, and then it gets into months, it's like we're gonna fucking die, and like look at all these other animals, they're dying, all right, we've got to start eating her, but like it's so
Why
fucked up.
didn't the dog fucking bark like non-stop?
I don't know, probably did. I don't know.
Idiot.
I don't know how isolated she
What a
was.
stupid dog.
We don't know the breed of the dog.
Oh yeah, it might have been like a little chihuahua boy, just
well, you're not. To be fair, you're not showing much empathy for this situation. How would you rate it out of 10?
Obviously, okay. What out of 10 of what? Like,
just disturbing, tragic, fucked up. Like imagine that was your mum,
if it was
that was how she went.
If it was my nan and stuff, how tragic.
That's terrible, isn't it?
I would. That's like a 8 or 9.
8 or 9 already.
Yeah.
Fucking hell. Yeah, I mean, I agree.
I'd say like an 8.
Yeah, it's bad, isn't it? It's really bad. And this is a true story. Do you know what I mean? This actually happened. And you heard it on the news, didn't you?
I heard it somewhere.
Yeah.
Maybe like Twitter or something.
Yeah, okay. All right, next one. Carol Joyce Vincent. Have you ever heard of her?
No.
In 2006, officials from a North London housing association repossessing a bedsit in Wood Green, which isn't far from us, owing to rent.
Is this going to be like something how like she died and her blood like seeped through mattresses?
Oh God, no!
I've heard stories like that. Okay,
not like that. What, real stories like that?
Yeah.
Really?
Like, you know how you get crime scene cleaners?
Yeah.
I don't know why, but I used to like listen to like stories of that, and like apparently there was one time like someone killed themselves and like they were on like free mattresses.
Oh God!
And like all their they rotted into the free mattresses like, all the way down to the carpet.
Oh my
so
God!
It's like when they were cleaning it, is like
my God!
Keep it
what a job! What a job! I mean,
what a job! I'd love to
fantastic
do that.
job.
I'm joking.
My mum was dating a guy for a few weeks who had that job basically of like picking up after like, so you know when people commit suicide on the train tracks, they jump in front of a train.
Yeah.
His job was to like pick up after the remains, right, and like like put them into bags and stuff. Like there's nothing funny about it, and you're laughing, right? And he once had an experience. This is so fucked up, where he saw someone's face on the train tracks.
Oh no!
On the train tracks, he saw someone's like face had been sort of like ripped off. and this is a real story, and he was telling her about that. And like, you must be a disturbed guy to be numb to that sort of thing, for that to be your job.
I imagine your dream. Oh my god,
so it's so weird. But anyway, London Housing Association repossessing a bedsit in Wood Green, owing to rent areas, made a grim mystery. Lying on the sofa was the skeleton of a 38-year-old woman who had been dead for almost 3 years. In a corner of the room, the television was still on, tuned to BBC One, and a small pile of unopened Christmas presents laid on the floor. Washing up was heaped in the kitchen sink, and a mountain of post lay behind the front door. Food in the refrigerator was marked with 2003 expiry dates. The dead woman's body was so badly decomposed, it could only be identified by comparing dental records with an old holiday photograph of her smiling. I don't know how that works. God. That's really weird. How can you like...
I found the BBC One channel thing funny, but like that is
creepy, isn't it?
Yeah.
Imagine you're the person who spots her. She's just dead in a fucking like sofa like that, and the fucking TV's playing like that.
No, but it's just a
skeleton.
That's so weird, though. You know what?
And she was like
watching when, like,
and the TV was on for those 3 years.
You won't even be able to tell how she died.
No, so basically, so yeah, she figured out. They figured out who it was through the dental records.
She died of boredom watching BBC One too long. I'd die.
Not a good advert for BBC One. According to the Housing Association, benefits continued to cover half of the cost of Joyce's rent for some time following her death. Wow. So that's why no one noticed, right? So she clearly was quite lonely. Initially, the association accepted these partial payments. However, after several attempts were made to collect the remaining balance, repossession notice was issued to reclaim her apartment. It is at this point in time that Joyce's remains are found. Now, I don't understand, right? Didn't she have a job or something? Didn't she have family?
Yeah, that's what.
Who were worried about her? Well, she must have separated from everyone.
Think about it like this: have you got any family that lives like quite far? That
yeah,
reached out
most of them
for
do.
Like the last 4 months.
Yeah, but like I feel like they'd know after 3 years, or maybe half a year. I hope so. Anyway, or like surely like she must have had a job. I mean, if she has enough money to cover like
how old was
a few years of like
she
was 38.
And this was in 2003.
Yeah, so she just must have separated herself.
There's no
from
like
everyone.
social media. Well, yeah, there's not really social media around
That's
that time.
That's a good point.
So,
yeah. So due to the lack of viable tissue, the cause of death could not be determined. However, Joyce did have asthma and a peptic ulcer. In fact, she had been hospitalised for 2 days in November in 2003 after she began vomiting blood. Either one of these conditions could have led to her demise. There was no evidence of foul play, therefore. The police ruled that Joyce died due to natural causes. Now, that is really, really disturbing to me. That story plays on my mind a lot because, for one, it's real. For one, for two, it's not far from us where it happened, and for three, it's like imagine living in that apartment and then discovering that for 3 years you were like living right next to someone who was dead.
I think for me, that's not that disturbing. I think when you think about it, there's a dead woman next door. Okay, that's disturbing, but like
her TV was still on, man.
Yeah. Okay, that is a bit weird. I would have thought like a power, like
you'd think it would go off or something, for 3 years.
I think that's the only disturbing part. That and how she wasn't fucking found for so long.
Yeah.
I'd rate that like a 4.
A 4 out of 10. Yeah. What the fuck? Because she wasn't eaten by her own pets.
Yeah, she just died. She didn't have family. TV somehow stayed on.
Yeah, I think so long. Okay, fair enough. I think
that's not disturbing.
I think it's more disturbing for the people who are living there. Yeah. I think they said there's a thing where it said that they started smelling weird shit in the. Oh, it's terrifying. I mean, imagine realizing that you were living next to that for 3 years. I mean, she was dead already, so there's nothing you could have done. But it's still terrifying. Okay, this is slightly different sort of vibe, right? Marcus Garvey Jr. was a Jamaican political activist, right? Have you heard of him?
I have actually.
Marcus Garvey Jr., Jamaican political activist. He was Have you?
Yeah.
You might know about this story.
I don't know where I've heard about him.
Garvey was a controversial figure. Some in the African diasporic community regarded him as a pretentious demagogue. I don't know what that means. demagogue, and they were highly critical of his collaboration with white supremacists, his violent rhetoric, and his prejudice against mixed-race people and Jews. He received praise for encouraging a sense of pride and self-worth amongst Africans and the African diaspora.
Wait, was he a white man?
No, he's black.
Oh.
Amid widespread poverty, discrimination, and colonialism. In 1923, the U.S. authorities successfully prosecuted and convicted Garvey for mail fraud in connection with stock selling for the Black Star Line. Garvey served a 2-year sentence and then was immediately deported. So he's not sort of had like...
Wait, when was this? Because I think I learned about a Marcus
1920.
Oh, that's right, because I did history.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I mean, he's quite an interesting guy. He's had an interesting life.
Yeah, I did African American history.
Oh, that makes sense.
USA.
That's funny that you recognise that name. Yeah. So you've
I think there's
retained
laws and stuff and loads of movements sort of based around.
Yeah. I mean, he was an activist, so that makes sense. So, have you ever heard of premature obituaries?
No.
So basically, I'm
guessing I can sort of guess.
Yeah, like newspapers and stuff like that. Like when any celebrity dies, their obituaries were already pre-written. Because they need to get it out as soon as possible. So every single person, every single celebrity, like that you can think of. Tom Hanks, he's already got he's already got an obituary written out in case he dies immediately,
tomorrow,
so that
they can just post it.
Yeah, so like news can like beat all the other competitors and get it out as soon as possible. Now,
there must be like a file with just like hundreds of thousands of like
fucking weird, isn't it? Now there are a few people that
that's going to be a pain if celebrity like changes their name constantly.
Yeah,
it's like imagine trying to search through the files.
Now there have been a few people who have actually read their own premature obituaries in situations where there's been miscommunication about their death, and like newspapers have got it wrong and they've put it out there. So for example, Mark Twain, Ernest Hemingway, P.T. Barnum, and Margaret Thatcher have all read their own premature obituaries. That's such a weird experience. Like, imagine reading that up, your own death being published to everyone. Like, Wayne Deegan was died.
That's quite cool, actually, because I feel like everyone would.
He was regarded as a narcissist.
That's the one thing I hate when like someone passes away and then it's like you get this massive wave of love and just like, oh, we loved him and everything like that. Like, why wasn't that in the news?
When he was alive?
Yeah, like
That's a good point.
No one fucking cared a week ago.
Yeah.
Is everyone jumping on the bandwagon now?
And it's like, he's dead now, so it's a bit late. All these kind words mean nothing, apart from his family and stuff.
True.
So, basically, in January 1940, Garvey suffered a stroke, which left him largely paralysed. Now, his secretary, Daisy White, took on responsibility for his care, and he survived, right? At this point, people started spreading rumours of his death. So this led to many newspapers publishing premature obituaries in late May 1940, many of which he read. Right? According to his secretary, on the second day of reading through his pile of obituaries, Garvey suffered a massive stroke and died 2 weeks later at the age of 52, June 10th, 1940. So he died reading his own premature obituary, which is just so fucked up. Like,
that's not really
can you imagine though, if that,
or anything like that?
Disturbing though, right? Tragic, right? Because it's like,
no, that's comical in a way. That's irony.
It is pure irony, isn't it? Like, I don't know whether it spurred on his heart attack, but it's a lot of like articles say that
panicking.
He kind of like suffered it while he was reading, like during this period where he was reading about all these obituaries while he was recovering, and that's what kind of spurred on his heart. His
your blood pressure got so high. It's just like, what the fuck? What are they saying about me?
and he died. So I wouldn't say. I mean, I agree. I wouldn't say that's as dramatically like disturbing and stuff like that. But it's quite comical. I suppose because like it's in the 1940s, no one cares anymore. But like, so we can laugh about it.
I think the last one's more funny than like tragic or anything.
Yeah.
I mean, I didn't like.
You didn't know him?
No, I don't. I mean, I learnt about him, but fucking hell, I don't like know him or anything.
You didn't know about his death then? They didn't tell you about his death, or maybe you forgot?
It's just like I can't even remember. Like I just didn't do well in history. But
did you not? I thought you liked history.
I liked it, but it's just like.
Did you have a good teacher?
Yeah, but at the same time, it was a subject that I never wanted to do.
Oh, really?
So just like
I hated history until we had a teacher for like a 2-month period.
It was like,
who made me love it.
It was like I went sixth form, and it was like that teacher did my like admissions and stuff, and he's like, wow, well, let's not do this because this is more of like a harder subject. Instead, why don't you do history? And I kind of feel like she was making me do history just so like she could teach a course of the year.
Oh, really? Yeah.
So, like,
it wasn't like a genuine relationship between teacher and student, where it was like, oh, you should follow your passion. It's like...
So I did like history before that, but not like loved it, and so like I had an interest, but not a massive interest.
Yeah, me too. But and then we had a teacher who was one of these teachers that always goes off on
Mr.
tangents. No, it was someone else. And he would swear. He would get really passionate. It'd be like, these people were in dire situations, you know, we're grateful to be, you know, and he'd be like going off to, you know, off the paper and like forgetting really what the point of the lesson was. And I loved it, you know. It made you realise that these were real, true things that happened, because he was passionate about it. It wasn't just reading from like a textbook. He didn't just give you like, you know, papers to read. He was a really good teacher. But that, you know, it didn't convince me to study it.
That's why I hate like education, because it's just like it teaches you just to remember things, follow like a you know, a system, and not just like be passionate.
Yeah,
so,
like, good teachers make you remember why these things are important. So anyway, all right, last one. Okay. Now this is the sort of story.
Wait, I didn't rate it.
Oh yeah, what would you rate it out of 10?
As like tragedy.
Yeah, just like a tragic story. I mean, what a way to go, man. You know, he's had a bit, not an easy life, and then he dies like, reading his own premature obituary.
Have you heard that story of that guy who had like a threesome and he died after like
what?
Like a 10-hour threesome? He had a heart attack.
What? How did? I
don't know. It just,
that's not the worst way to go.
I know, but like
ejaculating is probably like the best way to go of all time, isn't it?
Do you know there's some animals that when they do ejaculate they die on the spot? Is it? I think like is it like bees are like one of them, and there's like some fish and.
Right, this is a situation where viewers who go, "Oh, you're talking shit," probably have a bit of a point.
No, I'm being deadly serious.
Oh,
but,
really?
That is a tragic way to go. So I guess like
because they serve their purpose. So as soon as they come,
reading it and getting stressed from just reading, that is a bit tragic. So probably about 6.
A 6 out of 10.
6 or 7.
Okay.
Out of 10.
All right. Last story. Thomas Midgley, right? Thomas Midgley was an American chemical engineer, right? He was a clever guy. In the late 1910s, he was working at General Motors trying to solve the problem of engine knocking, spontaneous explosions of the petrol mixture in an engine cylinder. In 1921, Thomas Midgley tried adding, I don't know how to pronounce this, terrestrial lead to petrol, and the results were astonishing. So he tried to like cut the cost in like petrol and stuff, you know, for cars. Engine knocking was eliminated by adding just 1 part per 1,000 of the cheap additive. For his efforts, General Motors was awarded a number of patents directed to this new leaded fuel. The new additive was marketed as ethyl, which is the word lead being conspicuous by its absence. Ethyl was an overnight success and quickly became the standard fuel for the mid-20th century motor car. So I wonder if they renamed it ethyl because they knew that people would be suspicious about if it was called lead, you know. Because you see like, you know, fast forward to now, like everything says like unleaded as if it's like a good thing. And this is why, right? Almost immediately the additive had its critics. The harmful effects of lead were well known in the 1920s. Even the Romans understood that water carried in terracotta pipes was preferable to water delivered by lead plumbing. So basically a lot of people were saying this is bullshit. Lead is not a good component for petrol. It's bad. A number of universities and research institutions wrote to the newly formed Ethyl Corporation warning of the dangers. In response, Midgley staged a press conference in which he washed his hands with terrestrial lead to demonstrate how safe it was. He was very wrong. What Midgley hadn't told the press was that several workers at the plant producing terrestrial lead had fallen ill from lead poisoning. 5 of them sadly died. Midgley himself had succumbed to lead poisoning and spent most of 1923 convalescing in Florida. This news article loves very big words. I don't know what that means, but I'm guessing it means recovering. Over the following decades, the evidence of the harmful effects of terrestrial lead began to mount. It was discovered that the average American living in the late 20th century had 1,000 times more lead in their bones than their pre-industrial ancestors. This was directly linked to the introduction of leaded petrol. In addition, it was found that these high lead concentrations were associated with lower IQ and increased behavioral problems in children. More shockingly, several studies showed that exposure to high levels of lead during childhood is associated with higher levels of crime, particularly violent crime in adulthood. You know, like the cerebellum and the prefrontal cortex.
Yeah.
I'm not sure which one controls like antisocial behavior. It kind of governs it. So, like, you know, like sometimes you have tendency to have antisocial behavior. Either your cerebellum or your prefrontal cortex sort of controls that and regulates it to say, like, you know, chill out, stop it, become, you know, be civilized, right? Now, the thing with lead is that, you know, it was coming into people's systems. People were actually, it was in their bloodstreams because it was just suddenly this guy created this invention to try and lower the cost of petrol, right? And it just then created this massive. This guy had the biggest effect on the atmosphere of the world more than anyone else, because all of these cars started releasing this shit fucking lead, right, in the atmosphere, in the clouds. People all around the fucking world were breathing this in, and it affected fucking crime rates. This is unbelievable, because, you know, the lead breathing in, and when it goes into your bloodstream.
Tragedy now, that definitely goes up.
Yeah. In 1940, Thomas Midgley contracted polio, right? So after all this shit that happened, right, he then contracted polio, which left him severely disabled, right?
Why are you giggling?
Because it's quite funny, right? Ever the inventor, he devised...
And you have a go at me whenever I laugh at
it's
flipping stuff and not being empathetic.
1940. My mum wasn't even born then, you know. Ever the inventor, he devised an elaborate system of ropes, pulleys, and hoists to get him out of bed. So he had polio, and he invented this system that, you know, helped him, you know.
Oh, and he sold
get
that
out of bed.
And flipping
No,
loads of people
in
died
1940.
from that as well.
That would be funny. But in 1944, while using the system, he became tangled in the rope and he died of strangulation.
So it's funny because he basically like
fucked himself over. Yeah,
he killed a lot of people, ruined a lot of lives, and like
and then he
built something to kill himself.
Yeah, it's quite poetic, isn't it? Sadly, this time no one could save him from the invention, and that's how he died. His own invention killed him.
Oh, that's not tragic.
I'm sorry, but that sums up tragic. How is that not tragic?
That
is the most tragic guy I've ever read about in my life.
8-year-old girl getting cancer and passing away.
That's tragic. No, tragic.
That's a tragedy. So much life unlived.
You know
he
why?
Fucking lived his life, spoiled millions others, and now he's dead.
To be fair, he made a lot of money. You know. I mean, he was only trying to help people. You know, he didn't know. You know, people make fucking mistakes.
So as long as your intentions,
he wasn't
are good.
going. Yeah.
So what you're saying, as long as your intentions are good. So if a paedophile rapist say like, oh, I only meant to make her feel good.
No, but
his intentions were there.
All right, would you rather be hurt by someone on purpose or by someone on accident? Do you know what I mean? You know, someone on accident, right? Or someone you know on accident, or someone you don't know on purpose. It's clearly the person on accident. You know, intentions matter. He wasn't setting out to fuck people over and create more serial killers.
Someone by accident could have like all your limbs removed. Someone on purpose could just be hurting you, just so you like.
What are you talking about?
Because if someone on purpose, like, I don't know, gave me like a flesh wound, just something that would heal easily.
What? Yeah.
I'd prefer that than if someone accidentally
I'm talking about
cut off all my limbs.
You're such an idiot. I would give that a 10 out of 10. I'll give that a 10 out of 10 in tragic.
That's
you know what's tragic is because he was trying to help people. You know, he was trying to lower the cost of petrol.
It's not a tragedy.
And then he
died. He was a moron sort of thing.
He was a clever fucking guy, man. He was a clever guy, but yeah.
Yeah, you can be clever, but a moron.
No, hindsight is 2020, but yeah, I mean, I agree.
His sight's not 2020, mate. You couldn't see all the fucking wrong he was doing.
It's funny.
Joking, he probably didn't know what he was doing.
Yeah. So what's the worst story that I read to you there? I mean, the most tragic. Let's say tragic and disturbing.
So yeah, lady dies on sofa watching BBC One.
Yeah. 3 years wasn't found. Woman eaten by her own cats. guy who had a heart attack reading his own premature obituary, guy who just fucked, created the most biggest fucking effect in people's mental cognition and started like a whole spread of like, a spike in like serial killers all over the world, and then died by his own invention.
What was the third one again? It was
guy who
Marcus Garvey.
Yeah.
I'd say women eaten by our own cats.
Yeah,
that's tragic.
I
think tragedy is more like like a heart paining thing.
Something that makes you really
feel and empathise, sort of thing. Like it was a tragedy. The young couple died, to like that sort of thing. Like and the fact but then again, no one cared about that old woman. No one checked on her.
That's tragic, isn't it? I think the fact that she wasn't found for 3 years. Actually, I mean, the other one was only a few months.
Marcus Garvey, because he was an activist trying to give change, I'd say that was a tragedy because he was, making change in America. So I'd probably give that.